Considering women as an object, just as she was objectified on the screen, she was objectified in everyday work relationships. Essentially, TV turned into a catalog. You chose on screen, there were many actresses who, well, for a role, were capable of anything. Today, I'm going to tell you everything that's behind the famous Televisa catalog. It is said to be one of the largest networks of selling girls in Mexico, made up of famous actresses willing to do anything to stand out in their career. In addition to her, politicians, businessmen, athletes, and other people with a huge purchasing power have been linked, such as mobsters or drug traffickers like El Chapo Guzman, who is capable of rubbing shoulders with huge sums of pesos or dollars for some service. There are many rumors surrounding this famous catalog, and so far there is a long list of women who claim to have been invited to be part of the exclusive repertoire. Is it a myth or a reality? You tell me. The first time they invited me, I was doing muchachitas, and I had my boyfriend who was Aritel's. So when you have to talk to make reservations and all that, I said, oh yes, thank you, Ari, and I will be there. They told me, no, only you are invited. I said, you know what? No, I don't feel like going. No, thank you very much. They called back after I hung up, questioning my refusal. I mean, we're almost not even asking you. What they offered me was to entertain some gentlemen that I didn't know. And it seemed to me the lowest thing, and I never accepted it. Like this testimony from actress Kate del Castillo, there are many more that cast doubt. If it really is just an urban legend of Televisa, this media outlet that since the 50s has been considered a leader in the production of Spanish audiovisual content, covering almost all of the Latin American subcontinent, and therefore amassing a great fortune that for many years passed from generation to generation in the Azcárraga family, as it was thanks to its founder Emilio Azcárraga Milmo that the company was a success from its beginnings. Especially for the attention he paid to his roster of artists, who since 1978 began to be professionally trained in what is now known as the Center for Artistic Education, that is, the Artistic Education Center, also founded by Emilio Azcárraga. This with the sole purpose of professionally preparing future generations who would occupy a place in the media, whether they were actors, singers, and dancers, yes, with the condition of exclusivity for Televisa. That this exclusivity was more common in the past. But in the same way, this is how the first generations of artists who took off in their career were formed by this gigantic media outlet. However, in one way or another, this project was distorting its focus over time. Little by little, their talents were attracting the attention of powerful people, and they saw in them another business opportunity, one much murkier and very, very far from acting. Thus, by the early 90s, the Center for Artistic Education had become an escort agency, but a very prestigious one focused on major personalities from the highest socioeconomic levels. Athletes, politicians, and distinguished businessmen were their main clients, who had at their disposal a list of beautiful women ready to entertain them. Said like this, following the experience of Kate del Castillo mentioned earlier. But here the question is, who were these young women who, in addition to preparing as artists, were also part of what was the beginning of the so famous Televisa catalog? It is said that figures like Edith Gonzalez, Yuri, Rebecca Jones were part of the first generation of escorts, and not only them, but also included were male individuals like Eduardo Capetillo, Eduardo Palomo, and Alejandro Tomas. Since then, stories began to form that would appear in the future on social networks as a legend, initially told anonymously and with a high percentage of whether it was true or not. So the first signs of this rumor came to light through Twitter. It was an image of what looked like a catalog with photographs of actresses, their personal data, and of course the Televisa logo that could not be missing. The photograph of Lucerito herself was the one that caused a stir and a lot of speculation, as the girlfriend of America, at that time known as Lucerito, appeared very smiling right next to her personal data, such as age, phone, and very murky specifications. 24 years old, single and virgin, followed by the alleged fees according to the service to request, such as spending the night $1 million dinner guest, 100,000 new pesos companion to events without press, 200,000 new pesos companion to event with press, 900,000 new pesos. Giving this information the first glimpses of what was the dark side of this company. However, it did not have a great impact for some time until someone of great prestige spoke about it. It was none other than Mario Lafontaine, one of the most important producers that this company has had, whose working relationship dates back to the 80s. Time when he began to work in the creative field for different projects such as music videos, sets, magazines, novels, and above all, the public image that he wanted the artist to project. The man climbed the pyramid of success until he became the host of the Today Show. He had given so much to that medium of communication that it seemed they would work together until the end of their days. However, 28 years later, the doors to his beloved company suddenly closed on him. The reason? Well, he aired more information than the owners wanted to be kept under lock and key. And yes, it was about the mysterious catalog where actresses sold their services to those with the highest purchasing power. Who says it's legal and who says it's illegal? Who has the right to say what? Why? In this country of corruption, how dare they say this is right or this is wrong? How dare the girl Peña Nieto judge and put her in the proletariat? It was not the first time the producer referred to what he called the biggest brothel in Mexico. However, by that time, his direct message no longer had major repercussions. He had been banned for life, and there was nothing to stop the story of his own experience inside Televisa's dark secret. With his statements, he only highlighted what was already an open secret. But one of the biggest proofs of the existence of this famous catalog was revealed in 2009 almost by mere chance, as it was unexpectedly linked to Chapo Guzman as a client of this powerful company. This happened after a search was conducted in one of the properties of this powerful drug lord in Durango. Naturally, what was expected to be found was the typical stuff of the narco world, talking about substances, cash, weapons, and so on, incriminating evidence. But to the authorities' surprise, what they discovered ended up confirming that wild theory. It was a catalog whose content seemed to meet the characteristics of the one we've talked about so much. It had the data of a large number of women available to this trafficker, and incredibly it was found that each and every one of them were somehow related to Televisa. However, the news had little relevance because the available girls were practically new to the artistic world. In addition, almost all of them were of Colombian origin. It was a political friend whose name I don't remember, but it was 1,000 years ago. He spoke to me very scared to say, "Violeta, I just received the catalog, the famous catalog that everyone talks about." And I, "Who are you talking about?" "I don't know, it's just not..." Well, he told me a bunch of things that I said is not real. He assured me he held it in his hands. "I went to the beat directly to find you, you son of a bitch, because I was going to scold you." Obviously, he didn't find me. It was something so unreal for the actresses who suddenly found out about such a big business. However, it was far from being the worst, because in addition to this way to hire intimate services, there were also the so-called Televisa dinners, these extravagant events where only extremely exclusive people could enter. They were especially aimed at advertisers who looked around to select a lucky one who had been invited to the event. The advertisers' meals were basically, you were chosen like that. Wow, if you were invited to the advertising meals. Because literally those meals were to offer the actresses to the advertisers. They are the people who put the money into Televisa. They are the ones who buy the airtime. Without a doubt, it became a double standard company full of extremely shady businesses that were carried out behind the very famous door, the so-called Casa de las Campanas, an address where hundreds of quite questionable deals were closed and which was located in the Roma neighborhood of Mexico City. Surrounded by luxuries and a very ostentatious French finish, this became the meeting point for negotiations, in other words, where the operational point of the largest brothel in Mexico was. It is said that the clients arrived at the door in their luxurious cars, then descended and gave the keys to their drivers to get away from there, as surely no one wanted to be associated with the subject. And as if that were not enough, and to dimension the power of these negotiations, there are those who assure that there was not only one house in Las Campanas, but there were two, the other one being located in the Polanco neighborhood, destined to fulfill the same objective as the first. The demand was so great that there were more and more women in this catalog and at meals with advertisers. However, in the list of actors available to provide their services in that house, the names of Sebastian Rulli, Eduardo Yanez, and from the female sex Vivi Gaitan, Gloria Trevi, and Erica Buenfil are also speculated, being undoubtedly a high-end service as the house had spacious rooms equipped for intimacy. And not only that, but a personal driver was made available to the clients so that they were well attended to in whatever they requested. With all this data so far, the fact that it is an irrefutable truth weighs more than it being just a myth. And more actresses are speaking out against these practices, who not only speak to give their opinion but had the opportunity to refuse to be part of the network of this brothel. A lady who is one of the famous representatives of artists spoke to me and told me that there was a Televisa catalog and asked if I wanted to participate. I very kindly told her that I did not operate under those sexual or sexual favor standards. She was handling very significant figures, as if one would agree. She told me that there was up to 1 million pesos per night when one accompanied an executive or client from the Televisa company. Turned into an absolutely dark and murky world, unfortunately, abuses towards the smallest could not be missing, and this is where the famous Chiquilladas program appears. So famous in its time that it was allegedly charged with intimate favors to the children in order to keep a role. Naturally, those who have been linked in one way or another to this situation have spoken to deny both the existence of such a document and their participation in it. And such was the case with Lucero, who had also been part of the Chiquilladas cast. It's unwise to presume that if the catalog existed and I was in it, I would charge 15 how many. I have never dedicated myself to anything other than working, whatever it takes. In other words, I have never indulged in drugs, prostitution, alcohol, or anything similar. I've had no such needs. As I was saying the other day, I don't know anyone in the world who has in their hands or has ever seen a Televisa catalog. The singer and actress Solo referred to that as an urban legend that cannot be proven, but there are many figures in the industry who claim to have been invited and even forced to attend events of reprehensible purpose. On the other hand, being this a business with such powerful people involved, it is very easy to know that the truth as such will never come to light, but rumors will continue to appear and involve public figures from the high command, among which politicians naturally are found. Such was the case of Carlos Salinas de Gortari, who during his term allegedly received celebrities like Thalia and Adela Noriega at Los Pinos, who attended with the purpose of satisfying his carnal desires, being him the only fortunate one to receive the service at home for being the president of Mexico. And as if that were not enough, it was not the only time a president of the republic was chosen from such a catalog, as it is said that Angelica Rivera was the one selected from this same to fulfill the role of wife of Peña Nieto during his term, disputing the place between her and Galilea Montijo. But what do you think about all the speculations? Is the so-called largest catalog in Mexico or the brothel true or myth? Leave it in the comments, a quite controversial topic. If you like this video, something different from the rest, leave your comments below and maybe we can do a similar topic.